girls, and I would like to start to record it. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Katerina Sporoish. I am a founder of Python Girls community. I have my own story some years ago because I'm a journalist, and probably you know there was a crisis in Ukraine in different fields of economy, and I felt it too, and I tried to be a quality assurance engineer, but I failed it because I didn't find a good mentor who helped to answer it for my questions. Then I back to journalism. I feel happy right now in journalism, and I'm happy to help another girls to solve the same problem that I had. So, and the second, I would like to introduce our guest, Sophia. She is ready to share her experience, how to study Python, and how to find job. A few months ago, before coronavirus and quarantine, she found the job and she's using the Python now. And she would like to tell her story. And before she will start and she will introduce herself, I would like to tell the rules, the our meetup. So we're polite for the people, and who will not polite, we will block, because to be polite, this is rule of our community. The second, please write your questions after speech of Sophia in chat. So let's start, and our meetup will have two parts. The first, speech of Sophia. The second, sessions, answer questions and answers. Let's start. Sophia, could you introduce?
Hello everyone, my name is Sofia. I hope you can hear me well. Please, if you cannot, you can message on the chat. I'll try to speak loud and also slowly. I'll share my screen now. However, I cannot share my screen. I don't know why. I says host disabled participant screen sharing.
I will okay, second. I will make your host, and you will more make a host. Yes, and you can share the presentation now.
Yes. Can you see it, everyone?
I see. I think another our participants. Positive.
First, I'm sorry, I live on the first floor, so sometimes there might be noise from the street. Sorry for that. So as mentioned already, today I'm going to present my success story. Actually, I started studying Python from scratch approximately 1 year ago, even less. I didn't know anything in Python, and now I'm working with Python, and in fact, half of my job is based on Python. This is the agenda for today. Briefly, I'll share more about my background and my current occupation, how I became interested in Python and why Python actually, my first learning steps, the overall learning process, some of the best practices that worked for me, also what I could have done better and how you can learn from my mistakes, how to find a job with Python, and more about what I'm doing right now and what I plan to do with Python in future. So first about me, I'm originally from Sofia, Bulgaria. I'm also 24 years old, almost 25 in July. I have birthday. My education, I studied in the Netherlands, in Maastricht University. My bachelor's is in international business. I was majoring in marketing and business in Asia. specifically focused on emerging markets. And my master's is in economics and strategy, so it's economics and business related in emerging markets, again at the same university, Maastricht University. So as you can see, I don't have any background related to computer science or purely mathematics or something like that. My current occupation is as a business analyst intern at Lingoda in Berlin, where I'm currently also located in Germany. A bit more about me. I have different hobbies and interests. I like salsa. I very much like dancing. I like sports in general. I love traveling, like most young people, I suppose, and not only. I love learning, and I really like food. And yes, I'm improving my cooking as well. Um, Weird fact about me, actually, in my past, I combined martial arts with Latin dancing. I was practicing Krav Maga. I don't know if you've heard about it. So yeah, I like sports. Now, more focus on my work experience. Um, so I have various experience, which is in academia, public sector, and private sector. Before this current position in business analyst, I have never worked with anything related to Python or like analyst or data science, not at all. So actually, I first started as a finance intern in Bulgaria, which was a purely business related experience. Then I focused a lot on marketing. That's why I also majored in marketing. Back that time, that was really my main interest, and I wanted to explore it a lot. I was even doing online courses for digital marketing. Then, along with my master's, I wanted to learn more about economic development and the development field in general, because during my past years, I've always liked to do volunteer work. I was part of Red Cross, of other NGOs focused on improving inequality issues, or like fighting against poverty, pollution, waste management. So I've done various really experiences. Um, so I experienced this in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bulgaria, and also I was working for some time as a research assistant at United Nations University in the Netherlands. And there I really kind of managed to have like a feeling what it's like to be in the research environment. So I was working already with statistics a lot. Yeah. Currently, I'm, as I mentioned, business analyst. So some of my main tasks are related to data analysis with Python, which I will mention more in detail later on. The things I mentioned here in the brackets are essentially the different libraries I'm using. So Python has different libraries. That's one thing you can remember. Also, I'm working a lot with MySQL and PostgreSQL, as well as other tools like Tableau and Airflow. Airflow, in fact, is very much a data engineering tool. So as you can see, I jumped into this field and I'm exploring so many tools. I didn't even imagine I'll have access to so much information and experience. So how I became interested in Python. So in general, I very much like technology, and I like to learn new and really up-to-date skills. I very much like to follow the trends, the current trends in the job market. That's always been something that I've been doing. Already, as I mentioned, business and economics fields have some statistics and mathematics. So I had certain background in this and knowledge, as well as for my own individual research, master thesis, bachelor thesis, I was doing a lot of quantitative research. So I already became more comfortable working with numbers, as well as why Python. So I wanted to, why actually I became interested, I wanted to bring also more value and do something more meaningful. So actually when I was um, when I was working in the field of marketing, I felt sometimes that I'm not bringing enough value. I like marketing per se, but I didn't feel it's really my field. I wanted to really have more impact on the company. Of course, another thing, uh, I wanted to get richer, and I still focus on that. I think it's important, and it's nothing bad about. It's not bad to say that financial interest is something that everyone has, and also I wanted to be a cool kid. So actually, I think I've always found that people that know more technology and are even able to hack or something, it's pretty cool. And I always had something that I was liking about it. Specifically about Python, well, as you know, Python is really widely used programming language, and it is a good starting point because with Python, there's so much you can do. You can do different professions like data science related to development, but you can even build your own music softwares and really do it as a hobby. As well as there's so many online sources, both paid and not paid, that I'm also going to mention later on. And of course, as I mentioned, related to the job market, Python is actually still in very high demand, and certainly you will you guarantee yourself to be ahead of a lot of people if you have this skill in today's world, professional world, so to say. So just an overview of my journey. So actually, already in 2018, I was a bit unhappy with my skills. As I mentioned, I was more into marketing and sales. I was not very satisfied. I didn't feel very challenged. Later this year, I was sharing this with my friends, my partner, and they believed in me and they encouraged me. You know, you can do more. Why don't you try just learning more skills? In fact, then in January 2019, approximately, um, as a New Year resolution, I started asking for advice and I asked people in the field, friends. I also looked around in LinkedIn. I already had friends working with Python. Also, I got to know more about Python girls. Um, and yes, so later on in 2019, I started eventually learning finally after procrastinating. But my first learning steps were actually procrastination until like large extent. So that's one of the mistakes I did, I must say already from now. And I was not very fully committed. I was always having other excuses that I'm busy. And in fact, also studying masters was very intense. But believe me, when there is desire, one can find always time. So I really don't want to excuse myself. I could have done better. Then in between August and October 2019, it's more, I really started to focus more on learning. So I already also submitted my master thesis. I really had much more time. And I was already having a bit of a panic what I'm going to do next after my master's. So I really started learning much more actively then. Later on, as I built the experience, I started applying for jobs as well, but I nevertheless continued learning. That's very, very important because even now, as I am working already with Python, I learn every day and I even do courses still simultaneously. In February 2020, once again, I was still applying for jobs and I already got some company tasks that I was solving. And believe me, even at this point, I still some tasks are really a challenge for me. So of course, I was googling things. I was still referring to my old courses, but again, I really used all this knowledge. And when I would apply for the next job, I already referred to previous tasks that I was doing, and I showed them that I understand these skills already. March 2020 is when I finally got my current internship. And when it comes to my future goals, I really want to grow more into the field of data analyst and especially be more fluent in my Python skills. And for future goals, I would love to work remotely. Also, this Corona period actually really helped me to experience working from home, and I very much like it. And I would really love to be self-employed somewhere in future as well, and not work for other people all my life. So before I continue, what are the differences between business analytics, business intelligence, data science, and data analytics? So my presentation, once again, is more focused on these fields because this is my current experience. But basically, very often you hear these fields, especially if you're interested to learn Python oriented towards data analysis in general. And that's why I want to give you just a short explanation about the differences. So this is a visual representation that I have from one of my courses, actually. So basically, if you look at it, the first thing that one should look at is this text past, present, and future at the very bottom. So actually, the word analysis versus the word analytics are two different words with different meaning. But the thing is that in our everyday and working professional life, analysis and analytics are used interchangeably. But in fact, analysis is more oriented towards the past. So business intelligence is a profession that is oriented more about working with creating reports and visuals and making analysis based on past events. That's one thing you can remember about business intelligence. Whereas analytics is something that is more future oriented. And all these business analytics, data science, and data analytics, they are all focused on both future and past, which means they're all focused on analytics and analysis. That's one thing to remember. So as you can see, pretty much business intelligence, in a way, is the most the profession that involves the least focus on broader analysis, so to say, if you can see here. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I'm not expert in that. So basically my role is more into business analytics. And business analytics requires both knowledge from business, so more like business case studies, which is purely coming from the business sphere. Also, qualitative analytics can be more intuition based. However, we also do a lot of forecasting, data reports, and all of this, in my case, I use different tools like uh, SQL. These are different data management tools. PostgreSQL, MySQL, Tableau. Tableau is for visual representation. And if we go even broader, data science involves even more predictions and to improve the accuracy of future predictions. So it's even more broader. And data analytics is the field that is the most broad. So essentially there you can have more machine learning, AI, digital signal processing. So that's pretty much a simple overview of these different fields. If you have questions, we can discuss later on also. Um, so before I started learning, as mentioned earlier, I really started talking to friends, to family. Also, I Googled a lot of online potential job opportunities with Python. I used different websites like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor to already have an impression which jobs require Python. I watch also a lot of YouTube videos. There are many professionals in the field that actually will explain to you even more the difference between business analysts, data analysts, for instance. And you can really get a feel of what it's like to be a, let's say, data analyst for a day. So that's something I really recommend to watch and research before you even jump into learning Python. it's very important to have an idea what you want to do with Python actually, because it's so broad that you really have to narrow down in some way. How to start learning, in my opinion, and also my first learning steps. So for me, I saw that online there are so many online sources, and I was even getting lost, I must say. So in a way, I found a mentor. So in my case, it was my boyfriend who already had past experience because he was already in the field of software engineer and also experience with data. So he recommended me some really good courses, and that's actually how I started learning Python. In my case, I didn't have very good laptop in the beginning, so I've been postponing for some time to invest in good laptops. So eventually, I realized the importance of having a good laptop. So I invested in a good laptop after my master's. Uh, Another thing I realized based on my personal experience is that paid courses are always better than free courses. So even our mindset as humans is that when we pay, we have to do it. So I would really, really advise on, investing in courses. And there are so many ways to research that you can read reviews, likes, and I would really recommend that. And I listed some of the websites that I use, and I'll talk about this later on even a bit more. So for me, maybe my number one has been Udemy, because there I found very good courses oriented towards data analysis in general. And yes, Front End Masters is another very good website, and I can say it's more oriented towards development if you use Python for development. Um, Again, another tip is that it's very good to do something every day, even if it is only 1 hour. As I told you in the beginning, I procrastinated so much, but honestly, even if you do only half an hour or 1 hour in a day, and even if you're very busy and still find time, this kind of consistent work will really help you build good knowledge, because Python for me has been similar to how I studied maths and statistics. These kind of skills one should practice every day. You cannot memorize everything. The idea is to practice, 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 and that has been very helpful. And these are more specifically examples of courses and sources I used. As far as I know, we'll share this presentation, so you can have the links. Also, if you want, you can make a screenshot. Um, and yes, so these are some of the courses. As I mentioned, Udemy, and Udemy courses are actually really affordable. For let's say €10 or €12, I've done courses that eventually bring me to a career where I can earn up to, I don't know, like €3,000 per month or even more, let's say. So it's really the value, money for value, it's amazing. I've done also some free courses. In fact, from Python Girls Code Academy was recommended to me, but the free version there is of Python 2. And keep in mind when you look at courses that they should be up to date. For instance, we no longer use Python 2, but Python 3. And they're also like the latest version of Python 3. I've also shared different sources. So some people also learn from documentation. Each library in Python has different documentation, and this is absolutely accessible for free. However, sometimes the way information is explained is so advanced there, so I really struggled understanding. So that's why you need some basic knowledge first to refer to such documentation. That's how I felt. And actually, this cognitiveClass.ai is a website I discovered by chance on Google, and I really liked their course. It was for free, but I must say it was very useful. But for instance, I did some courses also in edX, and there I must say the way they start with the course was so slow that I really got demotivated and bored. So maybe I also didn't choose the right course. That might have been. But in general, what I like about most of the paid courses I did is that they're very straight to the point, very practical. There are exercises, and it's very good to do exercises and to really do everything honestly, not to like change the slides and cheat, but really at the end of at the end of the day, you examine yourself and you want to build this good knowledge for yourself. Um, and other courses I can recommend that I've heard of is from Coursera and Udacity. Udacity, you have very good certification, but the courses are a bit pricier. Of course, some people also prefer to read books. So, for instance, that's one book I'm sharing. I'm sorry, I didn't put the title. You can click on the link and check it out. And last but not least, I didn't mention about Stack Overflow. You once you get into the field of Python, you hear Stack Overflow a lot. In fact, a lot of people there post troubles that they have with certain Python code tasks, and you can very often find similar issues that other people face, and you can get ideas from the answers of other people. It's really a community there. As far as I know, you can even look for jobs in Stack Overflow. I haven't tried myself. Um, Continuing more about courses, once again, I want to mention also something for developers, because I'm sure that among you, there are also people that, I don't know, what's it? Um, oops, can you hear me? I
Yeah.
mean, okay. I just received notification from Zoom. So yes, more oriented towards developers. I really recommend these courses here from Nina Zakarenko. Um, I don't know much about her biography, but one thing I know is that when it comes to successful woman that works with Python, that's probably one of the first names you can find out on the internet. So I very much like her professional attitude, and she explains things very nicely. But also, I must say, it's at a higher level. The language she uses is sometimes a bit trickier, like harder to understand if you're new to the field. And these two courses are from Front End Masters, one of the websites I mentioned earlier, and they are paid. This website, you can basically buy a subscription for a month and you can access all the courses. And they're very short because she does more like a boot camp. It's very quick, but you can rewatch them. If you rewatch them, you'll learn a lot. And I very much recommend following her in Twitter and in general. She gives very good advice on Python. She's been inspiration for me, so to say. And even the fact that I'm not into development, I still watched her courses and they were very useful. How to know if a course is good?
I'm sorry, Sophia. I had got the
We're out of time.
notifications that probably we will need to re-enter, maybe. If it will happen, I will send all of participants the link again. No worries. So continue,
Okay.
please. If something happen, I will create another meetup and will share for all the participants.
Okay. I'll also try to be faster. I realize it's 7:30. Sorry for that. Um, so how to know if a course is good? Once again, it's important to check the ratings, read reviews, read some comments. It's very useful, and check if the course is updated. It same applies for books. Don't buy a book that has been recommended to you, but it's still very old. Just really use updated sources. That's very important. Also ask if you know anyone that did the course before. Just like in my case, close friends, they were doing courses. I asked and they recommended me, and it was very useful. How to overcome different obstacles. Once again, I mentioned I had procrastinating issues. So really remove anything that distracts you. Your phone. Sometimes when people study or work from home, they tend to eat more. If that distracts you, really try to really remove it. Also go to places where you can actually really focus. For some people, library and cafe is better than actually doing work at home. So after coronavirus, if you have opportunity, do that. And also you can find also a study buddy. If there is anyone else that you know that also is at a similar level, or they are just working on something else, you can just work together and motivate each other. Um, Also, another thing is some people decide to give up in the process. It is hard, sometimes can be also boring, I must say. In the beginning, just with many other skills, sometimes we have to pass through this stage that we don't really enjoy. But believe me, it's really worth it if you stay and work hard and study till the end. Find ways to understand different challenges, break down the problem in small problems. That's very important. Google things. Just Googling is really useful when you work, when you study. Ask friends in the field. And once again, as I mentioned, Stack Overflow really helped me as well. Uh, and not to really give up, another thing is to remind yourself what is your end goal. You want to see yourself successful in the field, let's say in data analysis, remind yourself, watch people, see how different lifestyle they have. They're more financially independent. These things can really keep you motivated. My tips for learning, as I mentioned, it's very important to be consistent every day. Even if you can do a little bit, is still useful, believe me. The importance is not to have big gaps when you stop learning. This you should avoid. Be focused, don't try to memorize. Many people in the field, even of programming, more advanced programming, no one memorizes. There is so much information. Just know where to find this information. You can absolutely, during your working day, you can Google things, you can open courses if you need to. Don't worry, no one expects from you to memorize. It's very important to put your knowledge into practice. So while you're doing each course, repeat with the person that explains the person that explains the course. Repeat with them everything they do, even the small things like print hello, which is one of the basic things you start with in Python. Do everything. It's really helpful to get used to it. And some days it's very good, especially before applying for jobs, to put extra hours and to push yourself. Continue studying, and even while you're applying for jobs. Really, it's a constant process that even at work you will need to have this growth mindset of learning. Some of the more specific decisions I made while studying, this slide might be very unfamiliar to you, but actually the operating system of your laptop can be very important, an important decision for you. So a lot of people recommend using Mac, which will be iOS, or Ubuntu, which is again Linux operating system, compared to Windows. So people prefer to use Ubuntu and iOS usually. That's something that you should figure out for yourself. And also there are different integrated development environments. That's basically the environment where you write your Python code. A lot of people, especially in the field of data science, let's say, use Jupyter Notebook, but I personally really like Visual Studio Code. So I use this kind of editor. And there are also others like PyCharm, or you can create your own on terminal, the terminal of your laptop. Some of these concepts might sound very unfamiliar to you, but once you start studying, you can get back to this slide and you can learn more in detail. When do you have enough knowledge to actually find a job? Well, actually, as I said, do not be a perfectionist. You always learn more by doing. And also really depends what you're applying for. So in my case, I already, before Python, had knowledge, again, based on online courses in Tableau, PostgreSQL, MySQL, and because of marketing, a bit of Google Analytics. And Stata is something that is very used in research. So all these tools, I already had some knowledge, and this really gave me a big advantage. And for instance, it's very different if you apply for a job only with Python. Then, of course, they'll ask you much more specific things about Python, and you should have more advanced knowledge. Um, Once again, just to be very quick here, just apply and don't worry about your experience. Really, just try your best and look at these mandatory requirements. You don't have to match all the extra requirements. Different websites I use to find a job, just checking the time. So I use LinkedIn,